The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hello and welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You. I am your host, Melanie Young, and happy April 1st. No fooling, it's spring, at least where I live in New Orleans, and no fooling. Did you know that April is Stress Awareness Month? Now, if you're like me and many, many other people out there, Stress Awareness Month doesn't need to be a month. It's a 365-day situation. But we're going to talk about how to tackle it and how to reclaim your life, because it matters. It matters to you. It matters to your health. It matters to your family. It matters to everything that you tackle stress. And it incorporates itself into our lives in so many ways. I mean, you turn on the TV, that's stressful. You read the news, that's stressful. You worry about how you're going to pay for $4 a gallon gas now, that's stressful. Food's expensive, that's stressful. You're trying to make ends meet. If you're lucky enough to have plenty of money, and you can still be stressed because you're going to worry about how you're going to lose it all. You know, stress comes in many forms. Before I bring on my guest, I lived a life of chronic stress for many, many years as the owner of a New York City public relations and special events firm. I was chronically stressed because you're always worrying about getting another client, losing a client, getting a placement, losing a placement, having a crisis happen, making payroll. New York is stressful, although I loved it, but it did eat at me. And then I had parents who expected me to be successful, and I couldn't go home to Tennessee without having a list of all my accomplishments. So I was basically born to be successful. And when I wasn't, it was stressful. It was also stressful to be successful. Needless to say, it took a health scare for me to realize that life had to change. Well, the same thing happened, and also a very public come down, which I have shared publicly in my blog at Melanie Fabulous. Well, my guest had the same thing happen to her. For years, Becca Pearce measured her worth by her titles, performance, and external validation based on what corporate America expects. As the former CEO of Maryland Health Benefit Exchange, a major player among state-run health insurance marketplaces created under the Affordable Care Act, and a senior executive at other healthcare organizations and companies, including CareFirst, Kaiser Permanente, Blue Shield, she lived in a culture where success equaled self-worth, and she believed it, and she owned it. However, as the case with many of us, including people I love and hold close to my heart, life can change with a pink slip. Or we don't need you anymore, or we're downsizing, or we're going in a new direction. We've all heard those lines. I have. And in Becca's case, and she'll share it, she was out of work. But that wasn't it. That was, horrible. It was a public firing, and she'll talk about it. But then she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Well, that really spins your life around. And I have a lot of friends who are facing that right now or have faced it, and it can be stressful. But Becca has owned her situation, reclaimed her life, and now she is a very successful coach helping others. And she is author of a really, really terrific book called You Don't Have to Achieve to Be Loved. And it's also the basis of her inspirational talks. Well, I think it's a great title because so many of us, by the time we fought for the rights to be successful in our careers, we then had to achieve to feel like we were accepted and loved and defined by our work, where before we used to be defined by, how many kids we had, did we keep a nice home? we're always having to be defined by other people's terms. And I talk about that a lot here on the show, and how you need to create terms that you can live by and you accept for yourself. Well, we're going to talk about that and ways to lower your stress with Becca Pearce, who joins me today on Fearless Fabulous You. So Becca Pearce, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Well, it's my pleasure. I feel for you because you went through a lot, but let's take it back to who is Becca Pearce. Tell us a little bit about who you are, who are your people from, who was the young girl who, like many of us, maybe didn't have a dollar and a dream and were trying to figure out what they were going to do. I don't know. It depends on how you were brought up. I was brought up where I didn't have an option but to be successful. How were you brought up?
I think, and I same exact thing. My father, I live in Baltimore, Maryland. My father was a doctor at Johns Hopkins. My mother worked at Johns Hopkins University. It was never a question in anybody's mind that you went to college and you became successful. I have 3 older brothers, and so therefore I am the youngest of 4 and the only girl. And so there was extra pressure on me there to succeed in a different way. And I just remember, the entire, my entire upbringing was about this, this expectation. And I think I have a personal belief that it may be generational, that I was raised by a woman of the silent generation, and she had a different expectation on herself, just like you said. Like, maybe her definition of success was different. Did she stay married? Did she have a clean house? Did she do this? But then the expectation was, no, I want you to do something different than I did. And so that expectation became aligned with, you can do anything. You can be president of the United States. Excuse me. You can have it all if you just work hard enough. And so that was where I was raised as well.
So did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I did not. And I will tell you that nobody wakes up and says, oh, I want to be in health insurance when I grow up.
No. And yet it's so important. I wanted to be a writer. I went around interviewing people with a pen. Somehow I ended up doing it by way of public relations. So I made it, sort of. But you're right. And yet health insurance is on everyone's mind right now. I'm helping my husband right now with it. And it's so important. And you obviously had a very successful career in it. And to be asked to help launch what really was the state-run Affordable Care Act division in Maryland must have been a massive honor. I mean, the Affordable Care Act was, wow. I remember when it came out, because it was right around when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was like, it's a big deal. What was that like?
It was absolutely the greatest honor at the time of my life. I just remember thinking, wow, like I get to fundamentally change the way healthcare is delivered in the state of Maryland. Like, I could not have believed more in what we were doing. I felt as if it was a calling at the time. And for those 2 years I was doing it, it actually became my identity. It was so important to me.
So what happened?
So it did not turn on quite the way it was supposed to on day one. I will say that at the end of open enrollment that year, we had enrolled 300,000 people who were previously uninsured. I had gotten 3 state agencies to get along, which was part of this whole process that nobody thought about. I had created an exchange where all of the insurers were actually playing, which is the number one reason exchange have failed in the past. And so I see all of these, and I had built an organization from 0 or 1 from me to 100. So there were a lot of things that were successful, but because it didn't turn on the way it was supposed to, it was seen as a public failure. And I lost my job above the fold with a picture on the news at 5, 6, and 11.
I have friends who went through that. And in many ways, I went through it without my face on the cover, but I lost my role. My company lost the role in running the James Beard Foundation Awards because of a scandal that I had nothing to do with, but everybody had to go, and it's just awful. You are angry.
Yes.
You are also embarrassed. You try to figure out how you're going to explain it. How did you handle it? What were your stages of what really is grief, anger, grief,
Yes.
And ultimate acceptance?
Yeah. My immediate response was, I submitted my air quote resignation at 3:00 in the afternoon. And at 10:00, my husband called me. I was still at the office and he's like, Beck, it's time to come home. they fired. And I was like, wait,
Yeah.
no, like, so there was just this immediate, like, I'm not done. I need to kind of keep moving, and I need to make sure everybody's okay. And my biggest fear was people thought I would give up. Had given up on it. And I don't give up on things. This is my old MO. I don't give up. This is who I am. And immediately went into this truly anger phase and this victim phase. How did this happen to me? Why am I the scapegoat? You know, a lot of people around me knew that it wasn't me. And I actually had 3 job offers within 3 weeks because they're the ones who knew. Like, other people knew it wasn't my fault. But I couldn't listen to them at the time. I was in this phase of, you say embarrassed, I think I might have even been ashamed, because I was sure that everybody knew that I had failed, right? And I had done nothing but work on this for 2 years. So it really was this immediate shock into anger, into shame, and then into a depression phase. And it wasn't until a friend of mine came over to the house and said, listen, like, I need you. I want you to work with me. And that I started to hear that other people didn't see in me what I saw in myself. And that's what allowed me to start to come out.
Well, you know, a lot of people go this. I just read a really, your book is called You Don't Have to Be Achieved to Be Loved. We'll show a clip up in the lower corner. Escape the lies you've been sold to design the life you want. I just also finished reading a book that I picked up at the public library called All the Cool Girls Get Fired. And I reached out because the authors were big time media people. I come from the media world, and everybody's losing their job. It's like, you know, everybody was the big wig at the magazine or the broadcast, and then they're not. And it is
right.
Whoa. And then you become what I call in the book I'm writing the formalies.
Yes.
And how to escape the word formally. Becca, I grappled with this a while. I still had a company going when I lost the James Beard Awards, but that was like such a big identity for me, and it impacted many other aspects of my career. And I was angry like you, and you trying to figure out how to deal with this. And I hated that word formally.
Yes.
And like you, I was still doing the work. And my then fiance, eventually husband, said, why are you still working so hard? There's the book on the, why are you still working? You don't work with these people anymore. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So give us a sense of the timeline of how you were getting back on your feet from losing your job and rebuilding what you wanted to do, and then your diagnosis of a brain tumor.
The time frame between the two, I lost my job in December of 2013, and I was diagnosed in March of 2015. So there was about 14 months of time frame in there. During that time, like I said, my friend came over and said, I need you to come work with me. I landed on my feet, which in a company that then got bought. So I found myself as a vice president within a hospital system in the state of Maryland, which I had gotten past that glass cliff. I felt so proud of myself. Like, women, this formerly thing, right? Women don't come back after some sort of failure like that. But here I was as a vice president, and I thought I was back on my track again. I was going to be a CEO again in short order. At the time, in about February, I had been losing my hearing for about 2 years. And yeah, and I had just ignored it. I didn't have time. I didn't think about it. Who has time? You know, whatever the reason at the time that we all play with ourselves to say,
ignore the symptoms,
to go to the doctor.
Right.
And be clear that had I gone to the doctor when this first happened, all of the outcomes would have been completely different.
How long did you wait to go to the doctor?
I waited 2 to 3 years. I just assumed that I was going deaf in my left ear. My dad had gone deaf when he was young, you know, until somebody said to me, single-sided deafness isn't normal. And so I finally went to get my hearing checked to find out I had a brain tumor the size of a ping pong ball, that because I had waited all of that time was now growing into my brainstem, and I needed surgery imminently.
Wow. And
when I came off that table, my face was paralyzed. My face was paralyzed for a full year. I'm now deaf in my left ear because of the surgery. I'm mostly blind in my left eye because my eye doesn't close. Like, all of these impacts, I had to learn to walk again. All of these impacts would not have been as drastic had I gone to the doctor when I first found out about it.
Wow.
Yeah. Note to self, PSA, please go to the doctor.
Well, I am a big believer in that. And I'm probably, I go for everything. I mean, I'm getting my head checked. I'm getting everything done because I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'm forgetting stuff. It's my brain, Once you go through it, it's like I'm a cancer survivor. Everything's like, oh my God, I'm forgetting everything. Could it be? Whatever. You
Yes.
go get stuff checked. You're not a hypochondriac, everybody. You're being proactive about your health. And that's really what you learned. You had to be proactive about your health first, and then you had to be proactive about what you wanted your life to look like afterward, because you don't want to get sick again, right?
Yes, 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 for sure. And I think that's the thing. It's also the doctor's job to be there for you. You're not wasting their time. It's, you're not, like you said, you're not a hypochondriac. It's time to go. And once you receive a diagnosis, then you can figure out what to do about it.
Right. So do you think the stress had anything to do with it, or was it just bad luck?
I have thought about that a lot. In fact, I just went to see my eye doctor recently, and we were talking about my book, and she said, she had said that she had seen a lot of women, high-powered women recently, who had gotten cancer because of the stress, and they believed it was because of the stress. Now, mine was not cancerous; mine was benign. But who knows why it began to grow in the first place, and what stress may have done to create that scenario.
Well, stress is, I think stress is like the flame that burns it. Everybody, because when I was doing my research for my book, getting things off my chest, stress wasn't and all my stress was not a direct link to causing cancer. However, it ignited the other issues and the toxicity that can lead to it. I mean, stress is just it wears you down. It wears your resilience and your body down, and you got to get on top of it. So your work, how long did it take you to recover from the brain tumor, and what were some highs and lows, and how did you deal with it?
So the ultimate recovery, I was in the hospital for a week. The ultimate recovery before I went back to work was about 6 months. During that time, I did, like I said, I had to learn to walk again, and talk about the introduction of vulnerability, people, right? Especially for high achieving women, this is not something that we talk about lightly, right? Like we have spent our lives putting up our armor and proving to everybody that we don't cry, we don't do anything, we're ready to go. And my then 7-year-old daughter had to walk me to the bathroom. She caught me falling down the stairs. Like there's no way to avoid vulnerability. So that recovery was all about learning physically how to walk again, how to get my brain to communicate again, how to, with a paralyzed face, there's a lot of things that are a problem. Eating. Yeah. And so just learning all of those things physically, but then mentally, the recovery was really about understanding that there was all of these things that I knew before, all of these things that I believed, that if you just try harder, if you just work harder, you can make it. I had to learn that those things are not true. That sometimes your body wins, and your job is to do the best you can to help your body do what it needs to do.
Yeah. And you have to listen to your body, because everybody's healing journey is different. How did your family handle this?
So my parents had recently moved back to Baltimore, and so they were with us constantly. They live, fortunately, less than a quarter of a mile away, and so they were with us constantly. My husband is a duck. Everything rolls off his back, and so he just rolled with every punch that was there. Wow. He went to every doctor's appointment with me. He did everything with me. And my daughter at the time, like I said, she was 7, and she was very involved in all of that. And about the time that I started to get better at 6 months in, she started to deteriorate, and she ended up with severe anxiety because she didn't want us to leave the house. She was afraid that if mommy left the house, something was going to happen again. And so she had to be in therapy for a while, and we really had to work through that piece, because I finally had to say to her, I've got it. I'm the mommy. I understand that you needed to help me, but I got it. Thank you. And so
she had some PTSD from this.
Yeah, exactly. And today, she's now a freshman in college, and she's doing wonderfully. And she says that she doesn't remember that time period. So, Yeah.
So that's huge. It does wear, for anyone out there, you have to kind of be, even though you are focusing on healing, you do have to have those sensitivities to your family. I'm recovering from a multi-part restoration surgery that's just been a little harder than I thought. And I have to remember that I have a husband who's dealing with it with me. And for everybody out there, illness touches everybody. So does the loss of a job. I mean, everything, adversity, setbacks touch everybody, not just you. So you've got to think in the bigger, but you don't need to be a hero to anybody.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, what was your road to mental, physical, and career recovery when you said, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I don't want to be doing this anymore. You started peeling away to find who Becca Pearce was and wanted to be defined.
Interesting because at the time I assumed that I was just going to get back on this path, right? This is the train I've always been on. This is just a blip. I'm going to get back on and do it. And I had to prove to myself. I think a lot of people who have been sick in some form understand this, have to prove to myself that the brain tumor wasn't going to win. And so I went back to work in that same role. And it took me months because I now have other deficits that are very difficult but I got to a point where I could do the job again. And I was like, yay, I'm doing the job again. And I had a choice one day. And my choice was to be at work for an 8 o'clock meeting that was stressful, or to put my daughter on the bus at 8:30.
Right.
And it was at that moment that I said, I'm done. I now know what life is about. I don't need the stress anymore. I don't want the stress anymore, because as we talk about stress, there was a time in my life that I thrived off that stress, right? I believed that it was the stress that made me better and I can handle anything, right? But you don't have to live that way. And I then made a choice not to live that way. Now, at the time, I had already invested in myself. I had already gone back to coaching school. And so I knew that I now had a choice to make, to be able to fall back on something. I had often been the only woman in the boardroom. Now I can coach women to be in a boardroom, right? There was a direct correlation for me that allowed that off ramp. And so that was the moment and how I shifted to the new phase.
Well, that's interesting, because that off ramp, I think everybody needs an off ramp. I think even though you're incredibly comfortable in whatever you're doing, you need to have an exit plan, off ramp, whatever you want to call it, a segue. I know when I came back from I worked throughout my cancer, didn't tell anybody, ran the company. I was a hero.
Yep.
And then one day my I'm done was, years later, and I just suddenly couldn't stand it any longer. I couldn't take the stress. I had a meltdown in front of the computer. I didn't feel anything fit me anymore. I didn't feel comfortable in the role. It just itched, and I started to itch. I literally started to itch. And I just, even though my husband, you're the best in the business, you should keep going. This is how you make all your money. But it felt wrong. It just felt like I was not in my element anymore. And it was a tough decision to walk away. And I didn't have an off ramp other than I could write and speak, but it's good you had an off ramp, because I think everybody needs it in this economy right now. I have friends who are losing their job. They don't have an off ramp. They don't have a game plan. They don't have backup. Unless you have enough money to sit back for a while and float, you better know what's going to go next, because unfortunately you still got bills to pay.
Yeah, you really do. And I think that it's very difficult if you don't think about it prior. Right. I would suggest you start thinking now about what are your the skills that you can carry with you, your transferable skills. You are not stuck in the role that you're in. And if you think about that now, because what happens is when something happens, when you lose your job, when they're downsizing, insert whatever it is, you're in shock and you don't have the capacity to see beyond yourself, to see what other people may see in you. And so doing that prep work is just self-love.
Yeah. And you need to, and it's hard because you're down. You hate the word formally. You want to have to figure out how to reintroduce yourself to people, which is really hard. I tried on a couple of hats in that area and then took offense when it all boiled down for me, when I actually took offense when somebody introduced me as a blogger. I went ballistic. But that, Becca, I realized was my fault. If they saw me that way, then I need to do some brush up work on how I'm presenting myself. So you've got to put together the package you want people to see in you.
Yes.
And own it.
And believe in it.
Yeah, and believe in it. And the believing part was hard. Because you go from here to here to here, you got to bounce around a bit. So you have a successful coaching career now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Coaching is a strange business because I get pitched all the time. I've done coaching. Why did you decide? And for everybody out there, coach is a big word, like consultant. You have a specialization. So in your elevator pitch nutshell, how would you say your coaching helps people? Who is your audience?
So here's what I say about my coaching that's different than other people's coaching. Because first of all, I've been a coach now for 10 years, which is rare in the business because the coaching industry is just blown up. And so a lot of people have been around for 6 months or a year. Over the past 10 years, what I recognize is that I bring to the table the old CEO. What's the bottom line? What are we doing? What is the impact on your business discussion? Aligned with the post-surgery, can't we all just sing Kumbaya? Thank God I'm alive. And so half the time we're focused on the emotion, and half the time we are truly focused on what is the impact of that decision and what's keeping you from that. And so one of the core values that I bring to the table is kind directness and helping people see in themselves what they don't see in themselves. And so I work with high-powered women who are trying to figure out what's next, whether that is they do want that next career, move up in that next role, or they're kind of like us. They've kind of woken up and went, I'm done, but I don't know what to do next. And I help people find that emotional courage to move on.
And sometimes it's the emotional courage you have, but you just don't know how to make the next step. And it gets more daunting. I'm helping somebody right now. It's daunting because you don't know, the way it works is different than the way it worked back when you were doing the other thing you were doing.
Absolutely.
And it's getting more complicated right now, particularly when you use online tools and AI, and the process is different. Starting a business is always going to have a formula to it. If you decide to go the entrepreneur way, you got to do an assessment. You got to do a SWOT analysis. You got to do a business plan. You have to know how you're going to fund the business. You got to know that one you got. But if you're looking to transition your career and you don't want to be an entrepreneur, and you got to figure out how to go from, I was successful in this industry, but I want to leave that industry and go to another one.
Right.
How to translate those skills and translate the message that you're just as good in there, even though you don't, have this, and this, because you're going to be competing against 100 other people.
Right. For sure.
And it's harder now because there are 100 other people. I mean, I think about all those out of work journalists right now and all those out of work, everybody's right now. A lot of people are out of work.
I'm going to say 100. I'd say there's 1,000 other people.
Tens of thousands. I just read, was it Oracle? Just let everybody, 30,000 people go on an email. Emails with Post-it note. I'm like, wow. Where are all those 30,000 people? Where are all these people finding work? I don't know. It's just amazing. But I see an opportunity to find them all and channel them and help them find work. So you wrote, you don't have to achieve to be loved, escape the lies you've been sold. Good point. And design the life you want. Well, I completely agree with that because I grew up where I had to be a success. Whatever it was, I had to be a success. I could not come home for Christmas unless I had, my list of achievements. So when I lost a lot of my business for various reasons, it was kind of like I had to go home with my tail between my legs, and my parents were embarrassed, and that felt bad. So how did you, what is it that you want, top line, your readers to get out of the book? And then we can talk about, we talk about mourning the past and unfortunate awareness, and then getting one foot in front of the other. What do you want your readers to get out of this? Because you have a lot of you have a lot of tips and worksheets in here.
So I would say there's two things. And the first one is, and you hit on it actually in the intro, that there's a good chance you're living somebody else's definition of success. So
Right.
Going back to your parents, you were trying to achieve their definition of success.
Right.
If you're wondering, what is my family going to say? And by that family, you mean you're saying your parents or your extended family, you're living somebody else's definition of success, and which may not be your own. And
Right.
so the number one thing that I want people to do, because a lot of people have never done it, is actually write down your own definition. What does success mean to you? How do you know? Because otherwise you're just moving the goalposts on yourself every day anyway. So number one, define your own definition. Number two, time is the only currency that matters. We are sold that money, the title, the power, that all of these things matter, but the only thing that matters, I'm here to tell you, without you having to go through any situation, any health scare, the time is the only thing that matters. And if you learn that now, then maybe it gives you that space to redefine your definition.
Right. And you're right. Success. First of all, why do you have to be? Let's just start with, why do you have to be successful?
Right.
I mean, I'm married to someone who doesn't care about being successful. It drives me, the success hungry person, not so, because I don't know any other way. I'm like a racehorse. I got to win. And I don't like the idea of being put to pasture. So it's a lot of it is how you run as a person. Like, as I said, I'm a racehorse. I like to win. I don't want to be put to pasture. I find other ways. There are some people who just want to sit around and live life, and success isn't important to them. And I think that's really important to underscore. If you define success in the way that you just want to be happy and smell the flowers and bake rye bread or whatever, and whatever, that's your life. You want to
hallelujah. Yes, do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's success. So success does not have to be tied, as you said, to money. Many people do. Career, getting married, having children, being a pinnacle. It doesn't have to be any of it. It can be just living life on your terms, which is what I always say. Define your terms and not measure up. But it's so hard because there's all that. Social media is the worst. Social media, magazines, it was always feeding me. So if that's feeding you in the negative way, get off.
Yeah.
And don't try to measure up.
Right.
I think that's really important a lot. And I think it's getting worse, sadly, because it's not what is you talk about it. What do you want to do with your life, or who do you want to be? You got to decide what you want. That want comes after the want, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you talk about their faith, the book also outlines 4 phases that everybody goes through when they go through change. And it's not until that 1 foot in, 1 foot out phase that you begin to recognize, I'm not running away from anything anymore. Now I'm running to, and that's where you figure out what the new want is.
Exactly. And that's it's an acceptance that there is part of your past that cannot happen again. The door closed. Right. Don't beat your head up trying to open it again. So go open new doors, accept it, and then decide which ones you want to go to, so that you don't walk into one and go, I don't really like this room anymore. It's not my thing. You go open another door, and you have options. But sometimes you have to do things along the way just to make ends meet, or maybe you're ill and you can only do so much. So you have to accept limitations when they come, but realize they may only be temporary.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I think it's interesting. You're a runner.
Yes.
So I want to talk about how you handle any current stress you have, because even though your life sounds like you've turned it around and blah, 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 you got stress. You will always have stress.
Yes.
So, because it is just it's like stress is like hunger, right? You have hunger pains. So you run. How does running help you?
Running, I'm also a huge introvert. And so running is the place that my brain goes to decompress. My greatest days are when I'm just literally running and my feet just go. Like, I have no idea where I'm going and my feet just go. And what that does is that allows me to process everything that's creating the stress in my brain. All of that swirl that, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. All of that swirl for me comes out in running. For some people, it's yoga. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, but it is that stillness within the brain somehow. And you can have stillness in your brain even if you have movement in your body, but it's giving your brain that space to process it that allows me to move on.
I do walking right now. To have stillness, just to be still, and just to lie there and think. I did it this morning. I was in a reflective mood, and I just had quiet and stillness. And I think that's really important, particularly when you are someone who has always been on the fast track, to allow that slow down and be still.
Well, and I think that especially for overachievers too, I'm correlating kind of overachievers to movement, right? And if you're constantly moving, then there's some sort of productivity in there, but you don't have to be listening to a book. You don't have to be, truly just, you can still be in movement and still feel like you can still be cleaning out the drawers in your house and have stillness within your brain.
When I was going through chemotherapy, speaking of, and my brain was a mishmash of just not thinking straight, I would organize drawers. And that was my stillness. But I could also keep my brain focused. And it was, and I still do that. I'll go tackle a drawer or a closet. And that's don't bother me. I'm in my mode. I'm organizing things, which helps me organize in my head.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So you have something called the Phase 4 summary, the Clearly Me summary. How do you define, what does that mean? And how do you define your Clearly You now?
So Clearly Me is the 4th phase of the process. And this truly is the rest of your life. This is when you stop apologizing for being this new person. This is when you wake up and say, for you, I'm not a blogger, I'm this, right? Really defining who you are and owning it and living that rest of your life. And for me, there are times, I think for everybody, and I think it's important to hear, right? Like, I'm not the coach who's going to be like, I've got it all figured out, right? There are days that I go back to, questioning whether I made the right decision and worrying about money and doing all of the things that I have worked on to get past. And recognizing that every day of your life it's a little bit like yoga. It's a practice, and giving yourself that grace for where you are that day and saying, oh, well, today maybe I'm a little bit sad that this is happening, but I'm also, there's a part of me that's sad. And there's also a part of me that's ecstatic about the fact that I am where I want to be and I'm moving forward. And so that for me is my Clearly Me.
Well, coaching is a tough business. I mean, I moved away from it because of the word funnel and all the marketing terms. I'm like, damn, it's going corporate on me. I coached some people. They loved it. They became coaches and they're stressed out. I coached someone and now she's a successful coach. Whenever I'm talking to her, she sounds so stressed out. I'm like, okay, what happened? Because she's working all the time because she's a coach and she doesn't have a boundary in terms of off hours, on hours, off. It happens also in public relations. It happens in writing. I mean, I have to get off the computer, social media and content. It happens with everything. You still got to create your boundaries.
Yes.
So whatever you decide to do doesn't take over your life.
Yes.
For whatever reason, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think so for me, it was, my boundaries are hard and fast. And I think
what are they?
I don't work on weekends. I don't work after 6. Absolute hard stop at 6 o'clock, but usually after 5:30. I don't work Monday mornings. I don't work Friday afternoons. Like, I have created this space for me and I think it's because I worked so many hours at the exchange, and I went for 2 years without going to my daughter's school. Like, I gave so much up then that it's like a complete 180 that those boundaries are so hard. But I think it's really important for people to recognize, like, it's okay to put boundaries in place. Like, it's okay to say, I'm not going to respond to email after 7 o'clock, or I'm not going to send an email to my client or to my clients or my staff after 10 o'clock, right? Like, creating those boundaries is what's going to help you, even if you're staying where you are now, to find the space to be a different person.
And you'll manage your stress. I mean, will admit that's been one of my toughest things, is to set boundaries, because I do a lot with Europe. So I had to adjust my schedule over the years because of Europe. But that's okay, because I wake up, I don't have an alarm clock. I wake up, I have my little morning's routine, and then I'll get Europe out of the way. I get a lot of things out of the way, but by 4, I'm done. I want to go take a walk. Don't talk to me, So I don't schedule anything. And same with weekends. And I used to work a lot of weekends because that's when all the events were. So learning to create the boundaries and enough. And it can be hard if you're going the entrepreneurial route, because the business owns you for a while, and that's very hard. That's a whole nother ball game. And I've covered that topic many times, but this purpose of this is to explain that, first of all, you got to keep boundaries in control and define who you want to be and your terms, because you don't want to get sick. You want to stay on, you don't want to lose yourself and your self-worth, right? And I think that's important. But something you brought up here and I got all that out of the book, and I totally live it myself, but something you did bring up that I do think is important, is you also have to have that off ramp.
Yes, for sure. Because
we don't build enough of those, do we?
No, I mean, I think it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day of where you are, whether you're a business owner, whether you're an employee, or wherever you are in the world. It's easy to get caught up in, okay, this is what I'm doing, and perfecting that, doing that well feels really good and is powerful. And at the same time, recognizing that what you're building can be transferable to something else. I think that's where people get stuck, and recognizing what can be transferable to someplace else.
And nothing lasts forever. I mean, we're seeing it now more than, it's just been waves of changes, but no industry stays the same. Even Wall Street, ups and downs. I mean, I had so many friends lose their job on Wall Street. I had so many friends lose their job in the media. I had so many jobs with advertising, and it was waves and waves and waves. You need to have kind of a plan in place, and the financial one, yes, but also kind of like your off ramp, or in the case of a health thing, what do I want to do next? So you're not completely caught off guard, and it's hard because you're just living your life. Most people off guard, but I think you've done great, Becca. Congratulations. That was not an easy path. I respect you immensely for it, and I love what you've been able to do to rebuild and help others, particularly women, see a path forward. So congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, I do what I do so other people don't have to go through the pain and heartache that sounds like both of us have gone through to get to the point where we are now.
Well, I created the show. It's a labor, for the same reason. Like I had a voice that was silenced for years in public relations because nobody wanted to hear from me. And I had something to say. And it started. So the book is You Don't Have to Achieve to Be Loved. Escape the lies you've been sold to design the life you want. And I see your website is up, morebeccapearce.com. Thank you so much. Stay well.
Thank you. You too. It's been a pleasure to be here.
It's been a pleasure. And let's stay in touch. And for everybody out there, I hope you've been inspired. Remember, April is No Stress Day. It's Stress Awareness Month. But the key is to be aware of your stress all the time and say, get the hell out of here. I don't want you in my life stress. I want to have my life with joy. Remember this, you have the choice in life to live it how you want. Don't live by terms defined by others. Know when to get out, when you're ready to move on, and then always choose fearless and fabulous in everything you do. Thank you.